I truly loved the original comic that this show is based on. And when I saw the trailer, I was like, wow, that looks better than I certainly thought it would, considering all the drama that this show has been through behind the scenes. So I was like, FX, please give me these episodes so I can review them. And I wish I had better news for you. The first couple are okay. If you're a fan of the comic, you're gonna watch this. But if you make it past episode 6, I'll be amazed. I like to see how things end, and I don't know if I'm going to go back to this. All right, so Brian K Vaughan used to be one of the greatest comic book writers working in the medium. He had a run where everything he touched was gold, and he was in the unusual position that he did almost exclusively creator-owned projects, back in the day. Today, like, everybody has their own projects, but he was like Robert Kirkman, like before Robert Kirkman. They kind of overlapped a little bit, but Brian K Vaughan was a really big deal. He went to become a television writer, and that's why he doesn't really work on comics anymore. He's doing one, but it's taken the longest break ever. But anyway, his TV show, it did okay. But while most other successful comic books, or even comic books that have even the smallest of followings, have been turned into a movie or TV show at this point, Brian K Vaughan's work has joined, and is really the bulk of, the small group of these comics that are still waiting to be adapted. I mean, he has some deals in development, like I think Ex Machina has a deal. And Saga, for instance, he's like, no one could ever turn this into a show, so I will never even let them try it. I would really love a Saga show. But I have to say, now that I've seen how Why the Last Man has turned out, maybe he's right. Maybe we would just be like, what is this? Now, this show, as I said, has not had an easy path, and perhaps having to stop and restart with both a new showrunner and a new lead made it so that this show of Why the Last Man just couldn't recover. There were just maybe too many cooks in the kitchen. Maybe they didn't burn it down to the ground and start from scratch. I mean, it kind of feels that way a little bit, a little patchworky. But, it didn't work out. But I do respect this show's hard work to try and modernize the source material, which debuted about 20 years ago at this point. And of course, the conversation about men and women and sexuality overall has changed considerably. So 2 of the more interesting additions that they did here that I actually thought were very clever ideas was they added a Meghan McCain type character played with gusto by Amber Tamblyn, and a focus on transgender men, where the show makes the point. The best I've seen yet, the most convincing I've seen yet, and the most convincing point in mainstream entertainment, that these are people who have these are women who have truly transitioned and transformed themselves into men, and that all they're missing is that Y chromosome, which is really just a technicality. Why the Last Man, on that note, is a fantastic opportunity for Elliot Fletcher. I mean, how many complex woman to man transgender roles are in mainstream entertainment? I mean, I can't think of any of them. I can think of some man to woman roles, for instance, on Orange is the New Black and stuff like that. But this was, I thought, a really great opportunity for Elliot Fletcher, and for the episodes I saw, he really did a fantastic job. And it's also a great opportunity for Ashley Romans, who is perfectly cast as Agent 355. She was also brought in. It was supposed to be Maria Rambeau, but I think Ashley Romans is fantastic. She comes across as a female Jack Bauer, and it is very exciting. Now, speaking of Agent 355, another thing that I find very interesting about the show, there's so much potential here, squandered, but that after watching 2 shows where you have a male warrior teaming up with a female magician, having a female warrior teaming up with a male magician, the modern version of that was great. Flipping that trope on its head is very cool to see. It's also very interesting to see so many opportunities for actresses, period, as an actress needs to be cast in every single role here. We're talking not just in political, but military roles, everything, rebels, every role is a woman. So you have a lot of actresses who maybe normally wouldn't get opportunities to work because there's limited opportunities, particularly in some genres in terms of what they feel a woman, can realistically play. And I think it's worth noting that all the actresses here do a phenomenal job. So it's just to see so many actresses and a lot of character actresses getting to work here and really have these roles they can tear into. They talk about, especially the conservative women talk about men a lot, but it's like a whole series. It's like the Bechdel test, the series. And it's just really, really cool in that regard. So I wish that all these actors who I highlighted here were in a better show. But first, before I talk about the problems of the show, I just want to point out that with all this fall TV starting, wouldn't you love to have some great meals to go with them while you watch these shows? Well, that's where HelloFresh comes in, America's #1 meal kit. It's 30% cheaper than shopping at your local grocery store. These are healthy, delicious, fun to make meals for either just you or something you can do with your partner or the whole family. With the detailed instructions, including illustrations, this is a great way to learn or teach cooking. Some of my recent favorite meals, they have such variety here, but some of my recent favorites are sheet pan barbecue meatloaves. Those jingled potatoes are tasty. Chicken and Dijon sauce with a nice salad and garlic bread. That's a very nicely balanced meal. Like, it's good, it tastes good, but you feel good eating it too. You're like, I'm still good. And then chicken and snow pea stir fry over jasmine rice. I like sprinkling in the sesame seeds on that one. You get to decide how many to order for, how many days a week, and here's a great offer for you to get started with. Just go to hellofresh.com/BTT14 and use code BTT14 for up to 14 free meals, including free shipping. Website down below, the link's down below. That's hellofresh.com/BTT14 and use code BTT14 for up to 14 free meals, including free shipping. Now let's talk about those Why the Last Man problems. Now, and this is a big one. As likable as Ben Schnetzer is, he's simply miscast as Yorick Brown. And I don't think Barry Keoghan would have been any better. I'll give you a slight spoiler. I think they tried to cast an actor who could be, could pass as a transgender woman to man. Because sometimes here, Yorick will use that as a cover. And I thought that was interesting. But in the comic, Yorick, and I mean, maybe that's a change. I mean, I can understand why they did this. But in the comic, Yorick was like, not a super, he's not like, John Cena walking around in there. But, he still was a very distinct male presence, which made it a very sharp contrast when he was surrounded by all these women. And Schnetzer, he doesn't have, presence of sexuality. He just doesn't have a lot of presence at all. He often just fades into the background. So, the one guy left on Earth with, this is an important distinction the show makes, the one person with the Y chromosome left on the face of the Earth, he should be noticeable. He should stand out, and he does not. I mean, I guess that's kind of an interesting commentary in a way. I mean, I really don't think you felt the loss as much with the transgender characters in the mix, which I think was really an important thing. I wish this show was better because it has really good elements. Also, a lot of changes have been made, for instance, to his sister Hero, played by Olivia Thirlby, who also was brought in again because they had to match the actors so they looked like siblings. But they didn't make these changes for the better. Instead, I felt her story felt very diluted. And while she isn't in too many of the episodes that I watched, Diana Bang's Dr. Allison Mann, an awesome character from the comic, well, here she's just really irritable and just a horrible take on, again, as I said, a great character. You do not want this character, you don't want this version of the character around. Whereas in the comic, she was just a delight. The show focuses more on its new ideas, like conservative women versus liberal women, all the same problems in government, only it's all women. Diane Lane is fine, she's doing Diane Lane, but her role becomes stuck in a rut pretty quickly. And then, of course, this exploration of sexuality. But the show's more interested in these ideas, and again, I think they're interesting ideas, but they totally overlook the characters. So the characters start to become, secondary and stereotypical rather than the more nuanced versions that were in the earlier episodes. Like, the thing starts out not bad. You're going to be like, what are you talking about, Grace? This is pretty good. And then you're going to see it take a nosedive. I mean, it gets kind of wonky, but like 6, I felt it was like a different show. That's the other problem. I love this actress from Sneaky Pete, but I don't even know what she's doing in the show. I mean, I'm like, why are you in the show? I mean, through episodes, I guess she's in episode. It's like there's too many storylines also, which I think is a bit of a problem. So again, I watched through episode 6, which is all the episodes they gave us, and there's 10 overall. But as I said, I don't think I'm even going to go back to finish the show because I think it's almost impossible it'll get renewed. If it gets renewed, expect major changes behind the scenes. Again, I do think it's a really great update of the comic. and I think there are some very talented actresses who are here in the show. But I think the producers and writers, again, they're more idea-based than character-based. And that's just a horrible, you just can't get into the show. So, and also, I don't know how dystopian it felt. I don't know. Maybe it was more realistic in that way. I'm not sure. It seemed also like it was missing some important steps. So, but I don't know. There was just a disconnect I had from the show. But again, really awesome element. So I wish that it were better. So that's my review of Why the Last Man, which is finally 20 years later from that's 20 years from the first issue. I think it ended like 2008. But, a long time after, it ended, it's finally going to be adapted. It's coming to FX this Monday, September 13th. The first 3 episodes were dropped. That's going to be a pretty solid watch. You're going to be like, it's not bad, but I'm telling you, don't get too attached. I mean, again, I think for the elements, for the ideas that are added, you probably will watch, some of you will watch the first 3 episodes. And then you won't be a total waste of your time, because at least you'll spot some really great talent. All right, share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.